G'day guys, you're back with Miracle Max. Today in the workshop we have a VE Commodore Series 2 2011. The brake lights are staying on constantly. What's the go? Let's check it out together. Okay, so the customer has given me quite a detailed email highlighting all the issues with it. Now, as you can see, I've just run some highlighter through it. He's stated that the brake lights weren't working to start with. Then he replaced the globes, no brake lights. He found a brake light fuse that was blown. He replaced it, and it constantly blows as well. The brake lights stayed on constantly. He fitted a new brake light switch. He checked the tail lights to see if there was power coming through. Other things that he's noted is that there's no reverse lights or rear parking sensor. The park lights don't seem to be working either. Other things, left-hand rear window doesn't seem to go down from the master control. Check engine lights coming on. They're trying to sell the thing, but his main concern is these lights, of course, because you can't really sell it unless the lights are working. So what should we address? This can be a fairly common fault in these VE Commodores. The body control module does tend to play up, particularly if you've had a trailer plugged in and the trailer has a short in it. Then it goes back to the BCM and shorts that out as well. Now, this vehicle does not have a trailer. That's not to say that the BCM's not at fault, but then again, we need to check even further. So how does this system work? Brake lights, just a switch, right? I've got a wiring diagram up here. As you can see, the brake light switch or position switch is here. Now, this position switch is not just a simple on-off switch. It's a potentiometer or a voltage divider as such. And it depends on how the pedal is actually positioned, how far it is on, as to when it pulls on the lights, etc. This will be used for cruise control as well, of course. You can see it's a pull-down circuit. We have an adjustable potentiometer here, and we have another resistor here that looks like a 1 kilo ohm from what I can see. And so things we need to check is a 5-volt reference over here. We would need to make sure that we have a good earth within the BCM, and then that's when the BCM decides to bring on the brake lights. So one of the important things we need to do, I guess, is to hook up our scan tool and see what we can find. Just on the Auto Data site at the moment, and you can see I've searched up stop lights, and it's bringing up a multifunction control module as well as the stop lamps. Now, this is in the footwell within the vehicle itself. Now, if I replace the fuse and it blows again, I've really accomplished nothing. But I'll show you a little trick that we can do just to make our window of diagnosis a little bit quicker. As mentioned, the customer's been in here before replacing fuses. You can see down there. Now, the fuse that we're interested in is, let's have a look, where is it? This guy down here, stop lamp park assist, which is a 15 amp fuse. So what we're going to do is stick in a circuit breaker to replace that fuse. Then that way it will click in and out, but give us a window of opportunity to try and find the fault. As you can see, I've just put in my circuit breaker there, and circuit breaker only goes in one way. The positive side goes to the power. And I can tell that it's working okay, because if I just go like that, it brings on my light. Now, that's interesting because he said it was blowing the fuse. But what condition haven't we done as yet? We haven't turned on the ignition. So let's do that, because the body control module is involved when the ignition is turned on. Okay, ignition going on now. Okay, let's check that. That is interesting. We haven't done anything. Let's put our foot on the brake. Nothing's changed there. Let's start the engine. Foot on the brake. Reverse. And we still have power both sides of the circuit breaker. Interesting. The customer did complain about one of the park lights not working. As you can see, there's no park light on the left-hand side there, which is fine because I've found, through my extensive searching of fuses, of course, the right-hand fuse is working okay. Get you on a bit of an angle so you can see that light a bit better. But the left-hand one, we have power that side, but not that side. So that's a blown fuse on the left-hand side. Now, I haven't found the smoking gun that I was hoping to find. Some of these things are not present, as you can see. Now, I've replaced that fuse for the park light, and yes, I've got all my park lights, including my number plate lights back, including dash lights and all that sort of stuff. No issue there. These are not present, not present. The only present ones are oxygen sensor faults, and the customer did state that there was catalytic converter issues, so no doubt he has some O2 sensor faults there that need addressing. They're the present ones. Not present, not present, even in the body control module. All to do with the brake light. Now, whether he has replaced the brake light switch and fixed it, or he has replaced it, but I can't get the thing to blow, you know. I'm going to clear out these codes. I've printed them out both for the customer and myself as well, but I will do some more research on this. But yeah, it's a little bit strange, that's for sure. We should actually see if we've got brake lights right now. Using my trusty brake holder down thing, let's see if we've got brake lights. Yeah, it's a little bit hard to see, but yes, we definitely have brake lights, including our eye level ones. So that's good news, isn't it? Well, let's have a little bit of a further look. Removing my trusty brake pedal holder down thing, and we still have brake lights, including our eye level. So is that a BCM issue or something else? Okay, moving further down in our BCM, we noticed that the brake pedal position sensor circuit, it had a short or an open or a ground. It's not present at the moment, which is interesting. And the circuit high voltage, that's once again not present, and a circuit, of course, within that, and that's not present. Now, keep in mind, what did the customer do? It states here that he checked the brake light fuse and found that it was blown. He replaced it. Brake light stayed on constantly. I then installed a new brake light switch. Also notice there's no reverse lights, so these are all done through the BCM, I believe. So I'm going to clear out the rest of those codes and then see what comes back. I'm doing an active test on the brake light system, as you can see, brake light test, and at the moment they're off. Now I am commanding the BCM to turn the brakes off and on. Now it's telling me that they're off at the moment, and will it turn on? Will it command it? Yes, it will command it on, and it will command it off. And it's off. But I'm in the off position now, but let's have a look at our brake lights. Yep, they're still turned on. I've also carried out a reverse light test. As you can see, I've tried to turn it off and on. It's not working. I've checked the fuses for the reverse. That's this guy over here. That's fine. And the relay associated with it is fine as well. I've pulled it out, checked the resistance across the control coil. That's okay. No problems, and I've compared it to other relays as well, and that's well within specs. And to test the integrity of that relay, the reverse one, I've switched it with the fog lamp relay. There's the fog lamp there. The relay's right next door to it. So I've switched this one with this one, and the fog lamps come on, so I know that this relay, the reverse one, is okay. So I've got to look further. Excuse the noise in the background. I've got a battery stabilizer fitted because I'm doing all this testing. What I'm about to do now, which obviously the customer wouldn't have done when he fitted the brake light switch, is to do a pedal position sensor learn. So that's something that may be a problem. We'll have to look at that. Anyway, I'm not going backwards. Okay, so all it says is that you need to turn your ignition on, and that's what I've done. So we can turn that on. Apply the parking brake. Yep, just double checked and my parking brake is applied. Select shift position park on automatic or neutral. Yes, it is in park. Start engine and allow to idle. And that's a big okay on that one. Do not move the brake pedal during the learning process. Yep, well I'm outside the car, so that should be okay. And it's beeping on the dash. Turn the engine off, turn the ignition on. And we can okay that. And the procedure is now complete. Has that made a difference to our brake lights? And guess what? They're still on, guys. So it looks like we have to look further. I've just done another quick scan on the BCM, and it's come up with that calibration is not learned. So whether the BCM is not accepting it and playing up. Since I've done those clearing of the codes, etc., we've got these coming up. But I've removed the brake light switch itself to make sure that it's returning home properly, and it seems to be okay. So I'm heading toward the BCM at this point in time. So the pins that I'll be focusing on relate to this brake pedal switch. Now if I've got the correct inputs and I'm not getting the correct outputs, obviously there's an issue inside the BCM. The pins that we'll be looking at is, 15, 13 and 14. Should have a 5-volt reference there to make sure that that comes from the BCM out toward the pedal, and make sure that we see a variation through the pedal back to the ECU, or the BCM in this case. And of course we've got to make sure that we have a ground at pin 14. So we should see a 5-volt, a ground and a variation as we go through our switch. Another reason I'm heading toward the BCM is these backup lamps, or reverse lights as we know them as. If we have a cruise down in here, we have checked that relay and made sure that the relay was okay, but is the relay actually being controlled? Who controls it? Well, look at this guy. It's a body control module, isn't it? And what it does is earth pin 86. So what I can do is, when I get into the BCM, I can earth out pin 86 there, which will be pin, oh, I can't see that, 24 by the looks of things. And that in turn should bring on my reverse lights. Then that will tell me that the BCM is at fault. And of course that would explain the brake lights and all other things as well. It's a fairly common fault with them. As you can see on the Injectronics site, there's a bulletin out with regard to this. The BCM is a problem. As it says here, stoplights either not operating or staying illuminated, and in most cases this problem arises after the vehicle has been used for towing purposes. As I stated, that there is no tow bar on this vehicle, so that's not it. It goes on to explain a little bit of information there, but I'd say that's what we've had. We've had a short inside the BCM and fritzed it. So yeah, we'll just do some more testing down at the BCM and see what we find. So to gain access to the BCM, I firstly removed this little thing that goes across the front here. You just gently get in behind it, lever it out. It's on a series of clips, so you just clip, 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 clip carefully from one side to the other. Then I removed this bottom panel that had the light on it, light switch on it. That just pulled off completely. Once again, a series of clips. Finally, we have this bottom panel across here. It's held in by a series of Phillips head screws. Just holds it all in place. It also holds in this duct, and that fits into here and over here. This should drop down now and give me easy access to the BCM. Of course, I've still got my bonnet release on there. I might get that off just to make it easier to get to the thing. Also, there's some wiring here that I need to address, but I'll get that out, then we can see what we're looking at. Okay, we're almost at the pointy end of getting the BCM out. It's held in by these clips. There should be 4 of them, and it sort of sits in like that. So what you got to do is pull these out and then slide the whole thing down. I'll have to do it, I'll have to sit you guys down because I can't get to the other side. But the whole thing will slide down, then we can access our wiring to do the further testing that we need to. Even before I start testing, I can tell you that this sucker is pretty damn hot, okay? So yeah, she's got some issues inside. If there's a dead short inside, our electronics are going to be actually quite warm. So it might help us to diagnose it fairly quickly. Okay, so there's like 4 million connectors on this thing. What have we got? Green, a white, a blue, a black, a brown, a pink and a grey. And of course it's full of wires as well. But what I did do was have a look at my brake pedal switch itself, and I can see the wires quite clearly there. There's a grey, just a straight green, and there's a brown red. Now that's what the wiring diagram said, but it is easy to get confused. So if you zoom in on that blue connector, let's have a look at that blue connector there. So you can clearly see that there's a light green, a brown red and a grey there as well. So these are ones we've got to test. So you can see that our 5 volts is our grey wire, our light green is our signal wire, and our brown red is our ground wire. So they're the ones I'll be testing. All right, so I'm in my BCM at the moment. I'm in the grey wire, which is a 5 volt reference, and the brown red wire, which is meant to be my ground wire. And we've got, what's that, 4.97 volts, which is not too bad. That's about 5 volts, isn't it? So our 5 volt reference is okay. And what about our brake light circuit? Can we change that? Can we change the voltage coming through it out of that control wire? So I've got my brake light switch hooked up again, and I have got my wire, or my connector, into the green wire, which is my signal wire coming back. And of course, if we just go straight to our multimeter, and if I turn my brake light switch like this, like that, we should be able to see a variation on our multimeter, and we can, like it's kind of obvious what's happening there. We can see it slowly coming up and down, and it appears to be going okay. So obviously the signal is getting to the BCM, but the BCM is not translating that information to the brake lights, or the power's there all times. I do want to check those reverse lights as well. I just checked this relay here. I got someone else to put their finger on it. They can feel it clicking when I go into reverse, which means that the BCM is pulling it down to ground. This pin, let's say 86, is being pulled down to ground. But does that mean that power is getting from 30 to 87 off to our lights or not? We'll have to look into that next. So just to confirm that the body control module is doing what it's meant to, and you can see I've pulled out this little relay here that belongs there. That is our reverse relay. And of course I want to see if the BCM has got control. So I'll put in this little adapter here. It's a Lisle one, quite a good kit. So I'm on my 80, I think that's 85. I'm going to put my test light on 86, and we should see when the vehicle is put into reverse, it should go to green. So can we have that in reverse, please? And you can see that's now green. Back to park and reverse. And again. All right, back into park, thanks. All right, so what does that tell us? Well, that tells us that the body control module has control over this relay. All it's got to do is earth it, and that is earthing it fine. So what I can do is bypass my 30 and 87. I should double check, of course, and make sure that I have, put that on there, and I should have power at my 30, which would be that one. Yes, there's my power at 30. I should be able to bypass that straight to pin 87. And if everything's working okay, then I should have reverse lights. This gets more and more interesting as we go through. This is the reverse light, so I've pulled out my reverse, or my tail light, as you can see there. This is my reverse light. Now, it's not working, of course, and I have tested, and it's a good ground, and it's a good positive feed in the middle. I've got it in reverse at the moment, and I've got 13 volts coming through there, which is fantastic. I've got my battery stabilizer on there at the moment, so that's exactly right. So what could be the issue? Maybe it's a blown globe. Let's have a look at the globe. Well, it looks okay, doesn't it? But hang on a sec. Have a look at the base. They put the wrong globe in there. Clowns. Okay, so you can see it's got 2 connectors there. I'm not exactly sure what that's for, but that's the incorrect globe. So maybe it's been done on both sides. But another thing I notice over here, have a look at the wiring. The wiring's been done at some stage, maybe extended or something. This is our brake lights. So let's just pull that globe out and have a look at that one. And have a look at this. Can you see, whoops, you see there's a little bit of copper sitting over there, and that's, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's been shorting across to that one. Not sure. I'm going to pull out the right hand side and see if I can alleviate that problem as well. So maybe it's just a globe issue all along. I'm not really sure, but let's delve into this further. Pulled out all the globes associated with reverse as well as my brakes, and I thought, oh, that's great, that's fantastic. But have a look at that fella, he's still on. So yeah, it's still a BCM fault, but there's a lot of other faults with it as well. I've replaced those reverse light globes, and yeah, they work fine. There's no problems with that. And I'll just take it out of reverse and make sure that they switch off. But yes, we do have a BCM fault with our brake lights. These are new brake lights, and they're doing exactly the same thing with everything turned off. So reverse has been turned off, no problems there. I'm just wondering if these faulty globes, when they put them in, back fed straight through to the BCM, maybe that was the fault, the incorrect globes being fitted, especially this little guy here that's got that shorting bit of copper that's sitting across there. That would have shorted between the two, but that would have just possibly brought it on, unless it shorted onto the ground side of things here. That's a possibility. Maybe it swung around and shorted out across here. I'll show the customer, see what they think. It took quite a bit to get the circuit board out of the actual case. It was clipped in pretty well and glued in certain areas, but I got it out eventually. Just to prove that we have an internal short, as I thought it might be, we can stick this into the diode mode, as you can see over here. And there's one MOSFET in particular. I'll try and work around the camera. just to give you an idea of what's wrong with it. Now, of course, there shouldn't be a dead short, which there is there. And across to here as well, there's a dead short, so that MOSFET itself is actually fritzed. The others aren't as bad. They seem to be okay. But yeah, I haven't checked the whole board, but needless to say that the BCM is at fault. Just to prove the point a little bit further, I've shoved the BCM, the body control module, I've started to connect it together, but I wanted to leave out the wiring for the brake light switch, which is the blue one here. And you can see those wires that we looked at before, the green, brown, red and grey. So that's not even connected. So our brake light pedal switch is hidden up there. That's that guy over there. And so it's not even connected to the BCM. But have a look at the thermal camera. Look at that hot spot, hey? Now, don't panic. It's not, my thermal camera doesn't work too great, as in it doesn't line up over the component properly. There's something wrong with it. But yes, if I touch this little MOSFET that I diagnosed before, it is super, super, super hot. Now just keep in mind, ouch, 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 why am I doing that? What an idiot, Max. What are you, a clown or something? But just keep in mind, I don't have any brake light switch assembly connected to it, but have a look at the brake lights. Okay, so those suckers are still bright as anything, hey? So it's definitely getting internally fed by the BCM. And that's why the brake lights are working even though we don't have our foot on the brake. It's been about 3 weeks since I started the diagnosis on this VE Commodore, and it's back in the workshop again. The reason is because I have a new BCM, nice and shiny, second-hand actually, and it's been reprogrammed. But notice that the body control modules have the same part number. Now this is a pre-programmed one, so it's ready to go. Here's the old one that I just pulled out now. So hopefully we can get it up and running and get those brake lights out. So let's stick this bad boy in and see if it solves the issue. Okay, so I've put my body control module back into place. He's tucked up under the driver's section there, underneath. And you can see that's now in place over there. There's our body control module. It's nicely color-coded so that we can see if it's going to work. Time to throw in the fuse, the brake light fuse, and see if we've sorted the issue. Our 15 amp fuse gets put back into place like it does. And let's see if our brake lights are stuck on or if we have sorted the issue. So no brake lights stuck on now. They've got some information on the window that I won't show you. There you go, no brake lights. But, which is all very fine, but do the brake lights actually work? Okay, so we have our brake lights working, which is excellent. Let's put them off and on a couple of times just to confirm the fix. There we go, issue sorted. Well, we're not totally in the clear as yet. You can see there's quite a few fault codes that have been logged. ABS fault code, what else have we got there? Airbag fault, stability control fault. The fault codes will have to be cleared, whether this is a separate issue or just something that I've created while doing my repair on the body control module. Of course, we still have to do some adaptations to make sure that everything works correctly. But that's our next step, of course. Let's hook up the scan tool. It's pretty important when you're doing any programming or just even scanning that you have some sort of battery stabilizer attached to it. A simple battery charger will not be enough. Some of these things pull heaps and heaps of current. Not a sponsor by any means, but the one I'm using is a Pro Logic, and this fella gives me about 100 amps of power. Raw power that we can pump into the battery and keep it at a consistent voltage. You can see there 13.4 volts. That is a consistent voltage regardless of whatever current we pump into it, up to 100 amps. So yeah, pretty important to get one of these guys nowadays if you do any programming or any use of scan tool. We're back in the VE Commodore. This is going to be our post scan, and let's just do a fault scan and see what we have at the moment. Now, of course, there's going to be some in there, and that's because our body control module hasn't been totally readapted. You can see there's quite a few fault codes listed there, so we'll try and get rid of those. There are still some adaptations that I've mentioned that need to come back on board. We're going to quickly erase those and see how we go. Saying it's got the incorrect key there, I think that came up once before, but we'll do those adaptations now and see if that gets rid of anything. I disconnected the battery for some time, let the capacitors drain away, and I don't know, maybe that's made the difference. Let's turn on our ignition and see what system check tells us now. Okay, so it's just going to its normal default setting, and the brake lights are still working correctly, so maybe it just needs a default reset. I don't know, I'll take it for a road test now. Still got all the bits and pieces hanging off everywhere, but road test will tell me if it's okay or not. After a road test and a full system scan, we have no fault codes present, which is great news. Have a look at the dash. There's no warnings on there either. What about those brake lights? And we've got brake lights. So all in all, that's worked out okay. There you go, that tested the old grey cells just a little bit more, didn't it? It's good that we could follow a logical path to arrive at the conclusion with that burnt MOSFET inside the BCM. Having it reprogrammed according to the VIN supplied by the vehicle itself made the job that little bit easier. I've done all the recalibrations as required, and as you saw, there's no fault codes or anything. I'm happy with the results. Hey, if you've learnt something today and you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and feel free to comment down below. Don't forget about that notification bell. You don't want to miss any future videos. Of course, there's always the Facebook, the Insta that you can follow us on as well. Hey guys, I'm going to head off now to do a course for hybrid as well as electric vehicles so that I can service your vehicles just that bit better, whatever those vehicles happen to be. So until next time guys, this is Miracle Max signing off. I will catch you later.